All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for jumping on today's webinar. This month, we're talking about the new SEO formula for window treatment and awning companies. Excited to have you on. Really do appreciate you jumping on today. And we're going to go through some things that will help you with your search engine optimization to get more, obviously get more leads at the end of the day and get more of these I guess you could call them free leads, right? If you get a lead from an organic SEO click, somebody came because you were ranking high in Google, it takes a lot of work and or time and or money to get there, or all three. But, in theory, you weren't running an ad to get that click, those kind of things. So we call this our digital dominance method. And currently we have 12 different areas of things that you can do as a business owner, which just sounds great, right? I mean, if you're not overwhelmed enough yet, there are a lot of things that you can do when it comes to what things that you can do to move the needle on the digital side to get more eyeballs on your brand. Today, we're going to be focusing on number 2, local SEO, some of the foundational things that you need to be doing. And then we're actually going to jump over to number 4, which is just straight out organic SEO. So things that you can do on your website and on other websites to influence Google, Yahoo, Bing, all of these search engines to not only index your site, but rank it higher, hopefully higher than your competitors at the end of the day, right? So a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the latest updates to the Google algorithm. And that's a little deceiving, quite honestly, because they update their algorithm about 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. So, I mean, there could be an easy 500 or 600 algorithm updates in the course of a year. But every once in a while, they make a major update to it. And that's what we're going to talk about, the latest major updates to the algorithm. Things that you may have put in place that could be hurting you now. Very important to understand, that you can't manipulate Google like you used to be able to, and give you some ideas on things you can look at your website, make sure that you're not doing. Obviously, how to optimize your site for the new formula, and get it to the top of the rankings. So, real quick, just a little bit about us. Window Treatment Marketing Pros. Started in 2018. However, I have a 25-year and 1 month tenure in the SEO industry. Been doing it for a long time. My daughter Amber works for me, and actually my son Ryan works for us now as well. I need to get his picture on here, I guess. We just received the top-rated SEO firm for 2022 this week. So very excited about that. And that's our 3rd year running that we've won that award. So very excited about that. I do have a book called Triple Your Window Treatment and Awning Leads. If you don't have a copy of the book, I'll tell you how to get one of those at the end today. We won top 50 fastest growing company. We're a veteran owned company, obviously family owned. And we are a force of a lot of people. This is not all of them, but this is all of the ones that submitted a picture to me. But we've got quite a team behind us, so it's not just Amber and I pulling all the levers and making all the changes here. So I did mention some free stuff. I want to make sure that at the end today that you get some free stuff, get some things that will help you move forward when it comes to optimizing your site. Also, I prefer to have an interactive type of event. So there's a couple ways you can do that. There is a chat feature, which several of you have already been using, which is awesome. So just put your question into the chat. I'm watching that screen as well, so I will answer any questions you might have. Or you can always just unmute and just interrupt. Will, hey, I got a question before you go any further. I would actually prefer that we answer the questions as we're talking about the topic in case somebody else has that same question. If you ask about it at the end, that's fine as well. Just sometimes people forget what that particular topic was about. So you're welcome to do either one, but I want to make sure that it's interactive. I also want to make sure that you get value and that all of your questions get answered so that you have some action steps, some next things to do. So does SEO still matter? Is it still a thing? There's always people writing articles about SEO is dead. SEO doesn't matter anymore. But look at this, 71% of clicks go to these first two areas on Google. Now, what's interesting here is there's no ads here, but even if there were ads, they wouldn't be getting the majority of the clicks. The majority of the clicks go to what we call the Google 3-pack, or the first two organic results in Google. This is where most people are clicking nowadays. When it comes to mobile devices, these numbers are a little bit higher. Most people looking for something like this, Window Treatments Memphis, on a mobile device are going to make their decision from this 3-pack. It's very likely that they won't even go to the organic results, that they will actually make their decision straight from the 3-pack. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but very interesting that many clicks go to just that one little area. Now, if we were to do some research on something, let me switch over to a different screen here, open up a new tab. Now, can you guys see my browser? This is a tool called Ahrefs. Okay, thank you, Jody. So one thing I can do, this is a really cool tool for SEO research. So one thing I could do is go here and type in something like window treatments. The term window treatments across the web is currently searched for 50,000 times per month. Now that's across the globe. Out of that, I'm sorry, that's across just the US. The US, 50,000 searches per month. And then we've got the UK, Canada with a couple searches here. But I mean, if you had a piece of that pie, you'd probably be doing all right, right? There's also other ways that people search for things. It's not that every single person types in the same thing, right? Not everybody types window treatments and then some sort of typical geo modifier like a city near them or something, or a zip code or something. People could also do window treatments near me. There's another 11,000 searches per month. Kitchen window treatments, bathroom window treatments, modern window treatments. There are a lot of different ways people could potentially search for a business, in the window treatment category, if you will. So that's just that one term. If we look at window coverings, there's another 21,000 searches. Door window coverings, temporary, that's interesting. Front door window coverings. You can see there are a lot of ways that people could find you. And I only searched for really two of the different ones. There are literally millions of ways that people could find a business like this. Now, one thing we can do is if we click on one of these, sometimes it gives us, I'm looking at the same screen here. Here we go. Questions that people may ask. How many window coverings? What are window coverings? Best window coverings for sliding glass doors. So there are a lot of different ways that people are searching for window coverings, window treatments. If we put in awnings here, awnings volume, let's let it load in here. So global volume, 75,000 searches a month. In the US, 34,000 searches per month for that for that term. This one's interesting. Look at the summer versus winter kind of searches here over the course of time. Pretty interesting. Emilio said, is this different than SEMrush? So this is Ahrefs, which is basically a competitor of SEMrush. Both tools do basically the same thing. So 34,000 searches a month. On the awning side, lots of potential out there, right? I mean, so there's a lot of ways that you can potentially get people to your website. And like I said, that's just a couple of the hundreds, if not millions, of ways that people can find you. So yes, SEO definitely still matters. So this is a screenshot from one of our clients, and this is from Google Analytics. And what we do here is we go to how acquisition is, how are we getting traffic to this website? And we look at the source/medium. In this case, 26% of their visitors are coming from Google Organic. It is the number one giver of traffic. Number two is direct. That means people typed in their URL. This is only 20% because they're running TV and radio ads. If it were not that high, if they were not running those ads and driving people to their website like that, that number would be a lot lower. Number three is Facebook, specifically m.Facebook, which is mobile traffic. Google cost per click. This is Google Ads. And then in this case, they're running some video ads also at Spectrum. But number one source is Google Organic. The other thing that's interesting here is if you look at the average session duration, or how long somebody is spending on their website, depending on which source they come from, you can see that Google Organic, almost 2 minutes on their site. And that is the winner in the top 5 here. Minute 28 for people typing in direct. Again, that's their TV and radio type ads. Facebook, 15 seconds. Check that out. Not a lot of time there. Google cost per click, or Google Ads, a minute. And their video pre-roll ads, they're not sticking around at all. So pretty interesting where traffic is coming from, and depending on where that traffic comes from, how long the person engages with your business. Very, very interesting. If we stretch this out over time, now we can see that 61% of their traffic is coming from Google/organic, which is just crazy that it's that high. So obviously, yes, SEO still matters. You can't rely just on pay-per-click. Now, we're not anti-pay-per-click. Most of our clients run pay-per-click campaigns, but we want people to understand that Google ads, Facebook ads, things like that should really be a supplement to a well-running digital campaign, which includes SEO as the foundation of that. A lot of business owners are stuck just running pay-per-click ads, and that's fine, but you're stuck running those ads forever. And when you stop running those ads, the phone stops ringing, right? There's no long-term investment there. So that's why we push the SEO side of things, because it is a long-term investment. It takes a little while to get going, but once it does, it can really pay dividends. So let's talk about some of the big changes that Google's made recently. Number one, you can't get away with duplicate content anymore. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Low quality links pointing back to your site could hurt you. So they're actually looking at the value of a link that's pointing back to you. An easy example of that would be, getting a link from Hunter Douglas would be pretty valuable link versus a link from Shutters or Us. Links still might have value, but less value. So important that the quality of the link is important to you. And then you need a real physical office in order to rank well on Google Maps. And Google Maps, now called, it was called Google My Business. Now it's called your Google Business Profile, is a huge piece of your SEO. Very important. Like I said earlier, especially from the mobile side, most people are making their decisions specifically from that 3-pack. So before we get into the 3 things a little bit more detail, I wanted to go through a couple of things that really haven't changed. Number one, content is still king. So there's a little trick to this. A lot of people think that if you just log into your website and change up your homepage, every month or every couple of weeks, that Google is going to reward you and rank you higher because of that activity. Not necessarily the case. What would be better is if every time Google came to index your site, it was bigger and it was better, and there was more content and more things for them to consume, and you were answering more questions and providing more value. That is really the trick to content. Every time they come back, there's more things for them to index and potentially rank overall. Plus, it establishes your authority. It establishes you as a subject matter expert on this particular thing. Mobile responsiveness, also a big thing. I don't think this is nearly the case it was even 2 years ago, where a lot of businesses still didn't have mobile-friendly websites. And by responsiveness, what it means is when you have a device, your website looks one way like this. If I turn the screen this way, it responds to the change in size of the screen, and it shows the important items, no matter what size the screen is and no matter the orientation of the screen, it responds to that and shows you the important things that you need. Another thing here, little bonus tip on mobile, on your mobile version of your website, and really on your desktop too, but more on mobile, you should make sure your phone number is in the top right or at the top of the page, and that it is click to call, so that when somebody pulls up your website, they can just click on the phone number, and that dumps that into the phone app on your device, so that they can call you straight from there. A lot of times they'll have the phone number listed on a website, but it is not click to call, so you can't click on it and dial it. You have to copy it or switch back and forth between screens to figure out the phone number, that kind of stuff. So don't make getting a lead difficult. It's super easy to do click to call. So make sure you're doing that as well. I kind of mentioned this already. Pay-per-click is expensive and not a smart main strategy. It should be part of a strategy, but not the main part. Inventory is going down in pay-per-click, which drives prices up. It's not the best scenario for a business owner. One other thing that hasn't changed is you can't spam or trick Google. Now, years and years ago, people would do things like putting white font keywords on a white background, and they thought they were tricking Google, right? Because Google can't see it, but you've shoved all these keywords in the back end of the site or something like that. Google's really smart about that kind of stuff. There's really no way to trick them. The other thing with this particular picture is Google has started to, they rolled out a couple of years ago something called their knowledge graph. And the knowledge graph is just what this looks like. It understands relationships of words. So in this case, you could actually write an article about the Eiffel Tower and potentially rank for terms related to the Mona Lisa, or something like that. They understand that those are geographically close to each other, that they have relevance in both of those areas. So they understand how words work together. The other example I always use is spaghetti. If you're writing a blog about spaghetti, they expect to see words like meatball and pasta and fork and sauce and Parmesan, right? So they understand how all of these different things work together. So there's really no way to try to trick Google to, stick a particular keyword in a lot of places thinking that'll just get you to the top easier. Definitely not the case anymore. So let's talk about the three things that changed. And in the world of SEO, in my world, we tend to give names to each of these major algorithm changes. In this case, we're going to talk about three. We're going to talk about the Panda update, the Penguin update, and the Pigeon update. I'm not sure why they all start with P, but that is how they've been named. So the Panda update was all around duplicate content and things that you can't do. The Penguin update was around low quality links, and the Pigeon update was all about super local things that you can do that will really help you out. So let's talk about duplicate content. For most window treatment and awning companies, you're typically serving 25, 50 mile radius from your location. That is usually the case. That's the case for 90-something% of our clients. It used to be commonplace to set up pages for each different city or each different municipality in the area around you, but just change the name of the city. So you had this page of content, right? And then you just change window treatments in Kirkwood to window treatments in Chesterfield, right? And then the content is the same, but the city name has changed. That tactic definitely does not work anymore. I would highly recommend taking pages off your site if you have those now. Another thing that web developers were doing were building what they call microsites, or even content networks or blog networks of all these blogs, and they interlinked them all to each other, and they all had a different topic and a different piece of content. And again, just changing the name of the cities, but it was all these different URLs pointing back to you. Those things don't work anymore. And Google made a very, very strong effort to make sure that anybody who is doing these types of things was pulled out of the index. So you definitely don't want to be one of those people. Your pages must be unique from one page to the next and from one site to the next. Now, in most cases, you only have one website for your company. And I do get a question from time to time of, could I start a second website and point that back to my main site? Yeah, you can. The problem with that is you're doubling your efforts. You have to now maintain two websites, create content for two websites, and hope that authority passes from one to the other. You'd be better off just taking your one website and making it as badass as possible. That's probably the best way to go about it, is just take one site and make it really good, make it really unique. Now, the city pages I mentioned are not a bad strategy, but they need to be 100% unique. So we do city pages for our clients, but every city page is different. So if I go over here and I look at Naka's Drapery, these guys are on the island of Maui. And down here, they have different pages for what we call their service area. But each of these pages is unique to that location. So this is a picture taken there. This is obviously content related to that area, but we also mention landmarks that are specific to that particular town. And then of course, content, we also embed a map specifically that is that location as well. So very important to build these city pages, but they need to be unique from one to the other. All right, number two, too many low quality links that could be hurting you. So in the past, it was all about links. The more links you had, the higher you were going to rank. It was pretty easy to submit a website to 1,000 business directories and get it ranking at the top of Google, in a matter of a week. Not necessarily the case anymore because of the Penguin update. Now they are looking at the quality and the relevancy of each link that is coming to your business. So you do have now what's called a link profile, and that is in a tool called Google Search Console, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's a free tool, but they're building a link profile for your domain name. And one thing you can do is log into this and find these really bad links, from Russian sites or from Poland sites or from all these weird places, or there's spammers, or there's a lot of different ways this could happen. But you want to actually disavow those links so that they're not counted against you in the overall scheme of things. It's also important to do something called diversifying your anchor text. Anchor text is the words that show up with the blue underline when you're on a website and you can click on it because it's a link. That text is called the anchor text. So in the past, again, we would build sites with anchor text that was window treatments pointing back to your site, right? Now it's more around keywords, but they also look at things like click here, right? That counts as well. If it's coming from a good site, click here is a great link back to your site, or the full https://www.joeswindowtreatments.com or whatever. They count those too. They understand the difference in the types of anchor text that you could have coming back to your site. Jeff asks, why do sites from Russia want to link to our sites? It's a great question. Why do they want to link to these other sites? Sometimes it's part of hacking, that they're trying to find different vulnerabilities. Other times they just create thousands, if not millions of sites with links pointing to these other sites. And you'll get these .ru, for example, links from a really bad website pointing back to yours. I don't know why they do it from a psychological standpoint of there's no benefit for them to link to a site that doesn't make sense, but they do. I'm sure it has something to do with being hacked and things like that. So anytime you see those types of links, you want to disavow those and tell Google, I know this link exists, but I don't want you to count it towards my rankings and towards my link profile, if you will. Now, this is a screenshot of Google Search Console, which again, we'll talk about in a few minutes here, but there is actually a links area on here, and then you can see who's linking to you and from where. So this is a good place to start seeing where links are coming from. Jody said, if we use tiny URL addresses, does that hurt us? In most cases, it does not, because tiny URL, Bitly, these kinds of services are typically 301 redirects, meaning it's a status code to Google that if they find that link, 301 says, hey, any value that's coming to this link, please give it to the end result. So if you're posting somewhere and you're posting a Bitly link or a tiny URL, or some of these social media services have these URL shorteners, almost all of those are 301 redirects, meaning they'll give the value or the link juice to the receiving page. So not a huge issue there. I would stick with the bigger ones. Like I said, Bitly, tiny URL, some of the very well-known ones, just to make sure that that is the case. But great question. All right, Sue, is this where you'd manage your links? So you can't manage your links from here, but you can get a list of all the links that Google sees. The only way to really manage your links is literally to go to one of these sites and say, please stop linking to me, if it's one that you don't want them to link to. But in most cases, they're going to ignore that email, right? So there's no way to really manage who's linking to you other than to use the Search Console disavow tool, which basically acknowledges that that link exists. You've tried to have them remove it. They didn't. They probably ignored your email, assuming you can even find somebody to email at the other place. So then you say, please just disavow this link. I don't want any link juice that's passed on. I don't want any credit for having that link. Now, at the same time, you want to be very selfish about links, meaning you want as many links as you can get from relevant sources to your website, and you want to link out to as few as you can. So you want to be pretty selfish about it, to be honest. Google counts links as votes for your site. So obviously there's different levels of those votes, but you want to get a link from Window Coverings University or Hunter Douglas or Graeber, any of these manufacturers. Those are super relevant for you. So you definitely want to do that. Where is the disavow tool? It is in Google Search Console. I think if you click on this more and go to that page, there's an option for you to disavow those. There's also a removal tool here for the index, but we'll get into Search Console here in a couple minutes. All right, number 3, you're welcome. Number 3, you need a real physical office to rank well on Google Maps. So this one is super important. I do training specifically on Google My Business because it is so important, now called Google Business Profile. You'll still catch me saying Google My Business because it's been that way for so long. So the Pigeon update really focused on the Google Maps system and made sure that all local map listings made sense, that they were real locations, no fake addresses anymore. They started filtering out UPS stores, mailboxes, etc., virtual offices. I had a lady the other day tell me her web guy told her to go get a PO box at the post office, but don't use the PO box address. Use the physical address of the post box of the post office, and then say suite number 724 or whatever her box was. To try to trick the system. Doesn't work. They get it. They know where the post offices are, right? But any of those types of locations, Google does not count those as a real physical office because it isn't. Now, there are ways around that within reason. For the most part, if you're working from home, you list your home address. While a lot of people freak out at that, it's really not that bad. I've had my home address listed for around 12 years now. And in that time, I had one person show up, to ask a question. Now, there are ways around that too. You could actually list your home address and then tell Google not to show your home address and just kind of draw a map around the area, 25 or 50-mile radius or whatever it is that you do. You can do that. The chances of you showing up in the Google 3-pack are reduced if you do not show a physical address. So that's very important. You can hide the address, but if you do, chances are you will show up less often. And you do need a real physical office in the city you want to rank. So sometimes clients will rent a closet from a friend who has a warehouse or something in the downtown area, something like that. Another way that you could do it is co-working spaces. A lot of co-working spaces, they have a receptionist. They will receive mail there, and you can rent a cubicle for once a month, just enough to get that physical listing. That's another way to do it. Dan says my home address is in HOA, no public access. Yeah, but you still have a home address where they could send a postcard to, I would assume. Actually, that would probably be an even better situation, because then people wouldn't show up at your home because they couldn't. But you still get mail sent to your home, I'm assuming. So the whole reason that you have to have a physical address is because the first thing Google's going to do is send you a postcard with a PIN number on it. And that postcard has to go to the real business address. And of course, you'll get that postcard, you put in the PIN number, that verifies your listing. So that's why we're talking about a couple ways around it. Now, in the last year or so, Google has dumped a ton of resources into the Google Business Profile area. They changed the name of it from Google My Business. They've been adding a lot of features. Some of you may have seen that you can actually edit your profile live in Google now, versus going to the business platform, which you had to do in the past. In some cases, we just had a client who had to take pictures of the front of their location that had signage on it, permanently affixed signage. So, they're starting to get a little more specific about what businesses they're listing. In one case, they wanted them to actually pull up their phone and make a video of them walking through their workroom, things like that. So obviously it depends on what you do, but this is definitely getting a lot more attention. And here's the thing, ranking in that 3-pack of results is huge. We have clients that in some cases, 70% of their leads are coming from Google My Business. These are people who are not even visiting their website and engaging with their business, picking up the phone and calling them, sending them a text message, something like that. So it is very important to have this figured out, with the home address type situation, or some sort of physical address. All right. What else has changed? Old-fashioned SEO no longer effective. I kind of already alluded to this with things like, white text on white background. There really are no more shortcuts anymore. Another one that was years and years ago was a meta tag called the keyword tag. And web developers would ask you, hey, what's a list of 10 keywords that you guys want to rank for? And they would plug those into that keyword tag in the back end. And basically it would say, hey, Google, here's the 10 things our website is about. But people figured out really quick that they could put in Paris Hilton, and Britney Spears and these things that had nothing to do with their business, but they knew by putting those things in that they would rank higher in, quite honestly, in searches that didn't even make any sense, but people would do it. So that keyword tag is gone, not even relevant anymore. The big thing here is it's all about user experience. The user needs to be able to find the information that they want. They need to be able to find it easily. And it needs to match searcher intent. So this talks back to content being king. So the more content you can create around different topics, when somebody is searching for that topic, you help them answer that question. Google sees that fact that they didn't come back or they didn't do any more searches. They assume that means you answered the question, and that helps you rank a little bit higher, which is pretty interesting as well. So let's talk about some of the new ranking factors. Now, I've got a picture here of Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Those, I guess we could call them the three biggest players. But in reality, Google is the only one that, we really need to satisfy. If we can make Google happy, the others will come along, and the others are less than 10% of all searches. By the time you talk about Google and then some of their other properties like YouTube, for example, lots of people coming through their properties to websites. So a couple of things that are important, click-through rate. This is how many people see your website in the list of 10 when they look at the organic rankings. How many people click through to your website is something Google is watching. Obviously, I mentioned this now, mobile responsiveness. In some cases, our clients are getting more traffic from mobile devices than they are from desktop, which is actually pretty commonplace now. How long somebody spends on your website is important as well. How long somebody is looking around. We looked at those numbers earlier on about, verse from the different sources, how long somebody was staying on the site. Google's watching those types of things. Bounce rate is how many people come to your website and hit the back button, typically within 3 to 6 seconds. That's considered a bounce. And that means whatever they saw when they landed didn't match up to the search they were doing. So Google's paying attention to that. Number of citations. Citations are mentions of your business around the web. Typical citation sites are Facebook, Yelp, Houzz, the Better Business Bureau, Chamber of Commerce, those types of business directory type sites that list businesses. Each one of those is a citation and can be very important for your SEO. Obviously, the number of reviews that you have is going to help you get into that 3-pack of results and relevant links back to your site. So the keyword here obviously is relevant links. And NAP means name, address, and phone. I talk more about this in my Google My Business training, but you always want to make sure that your name, address, and phone number are always the same on each of these different directories. So if it's 123 Main Street, if you spell it out every time. You can't use ST period sometimes and spell out street other times. It has to be the same every single time on every single website. Same obviously for your name. Typically, you don't change the name of your business on different sites. It's always the same, but you should always use the same one. So if your name is Joe's Window Treatments LLC, you need to make sure that you're using that everywhere. By the way, in the book that I wrote, I go through a huge list of all of these different, like a glossary type thing, and what all these different things mean. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the book here in a few minutes. So find out what the most important keywords are based on your service area, and search volume. Google has a free keyword tool. You can just type Google keyword tool into Google and you'll get that tool. Another one is called Uber Suggest. Both of those are free. The one that I showed earlier was called Ahrefs. It is a paid tool. Same for the one that Emilio mentioned, which is SEMrush. I think both of those have a free trial, but they're pretty small. They're like 7 days or something like that. But these other tools work great just as well. So, and then build a website that has unique pages targeting each of those main keywords. Make sure that they are unique. Don't forget about the city pages. Those are great. And the great thing about a city page is if somebody types in, window treatments, Kirkwood, and they land on a page that talks about that, it's very likely a very warm lead, right? They're going to convert because you're answering the exact search that they were searching for, which is great. Optimize for user experience. Make sure that doing business is easy with you. Make sure that your phone number is click to call. Make sure your phone number is easy to find. Make sure you have a contact us page with a phone number and an email and a form, lots of different ways that people could engage with your business. Make it easy. Don't make it difficult to find how to call you or something. And then optimize your site for search engine optimization. So do things on your website, such as putting keywords throughout the site, depending on the page, building out different titles, descriptions of each page. And we talk about more about this specifically in my deep dive on SEO training. Go into each of these different things in a little bit more detail. And then build your authority on other websites besides yours. Get those links back to your site. For instance, the easiest one is probably your Facebook page. Make sure that the link in your About Us on your Facebook page is correct. A lot of times people forget about it or don't even list it. There's an easy link back to your site right there. But doing things on other websites to influence Google to see more mentions of your business around the web, which will help you rank higher. And then don't forget to track your results. We looked at some reports earlier inside Google Analytics. It's very important that you're set up on Google Analytics, and Google Search Console is another one. Again, we'll talk about that in a minute here. Here's a free list of keywords. If you're not sure where to start, wtmarketingpros.com/keywords. We've got a keyword list out there for window treatment and awning companies. You can download that. That'll give you a fantastic start. Don't forget to add your city to these, because that's what most people are going to type, or they're going to type near me, right? Which still, if you're optimizing content for your city, Google is going to understand the near me part of that as well. And then track the keywords that you're trying to rank for, right? Plug those into a system so that you can see what is your position when somebody does a search for that particular key phrase or keyword. Where do you show up in Google for that particular phrase? Very important to make sure that all of this effort that you're putting into this is paying off in some way. Now, I mentioned off-page SEO. A couple of things that you can do here is leverage things like this actually should be on-page SEO, it looks like. Leverage multimedia. Put videos on your site. Product pages for each of your services, products, cities. Make sure every page has unique content. Keywords in the main title of the page and your H1 or your heading tags. I apologize, it says off page, but this is on page SEO. A description that sells the click. So one thing that you can do is go to Google, and we'll use Nakas here again as an example. One thing you can do is go to Google and type in site : and then your domain name, no spaces, site : your domain name. What that does is say, hey, Google, what do you know about this particular website, or how does this website show up in the Google index? And this is a great tool because now you can see my site title, what it is. Does this match what I'm trying to rank for? In this case, Maui window treatments is probably their number one search term. So it makes sense that that is the title for their page. And then this is the description, which is typically about 2 sentences. And it matches the title in some way, but expounds on it a little bit, adds in some other keywords that they also want to rank for. So this is a typical kind of setup for a website. Now, if yours says home or welcome to Nakas Drapery, that's not the best use of that, right? Because you're not sending signals to Google that we want to rank for these particular searches. Jody says, we have one location, brick and mortar. Would adding cities in our keywords benefit or hurt us? One location, brick and mortar, absolutely would help you. I don't see why you would not do that in those areas. And then typically you start to expand further and further away from that area. As you start to rank locally, you add more cities that are a little bit further out, but you still service and kind of build it out that way. Another tool that we use is called Bright Local. And this is a pretty cool tool. It gives you some really cool map. Let's look at Nakas here. Gives you some really cool maps that you can start to watch locally to see where you're ranking for, or what keywords you're ranking for, where you show up in the map, things like that. But check this out. This is called the local search grid, and I haven't run this tool in a while. But if you do a search on Maui for the word drapery in any of these areas, you can see where you show up in the rankings. So most of those are number ones, right? Which is fantastic, exactly what you want to happen. Window treatments, you see it like this. Now, one thing that we would do here is we say, well, it looks like we need to create some content for whatever this area is called. Maybe it's the Awning Village. We need to create some content for that area to get us up into the first 3 spots here, right? Window coverings, same kind of thing. So this could also be like a non-affluent part of their target, and they don't want to rank there. That could also be the case, but Bright Local is pretty cool because it lets you continue to expand. So this is currently 1 mile between each of these dots. So in this case, our next function or task here would be to change this to 2 miles and then see where we rank when it comes to some of these fringe areas around here. Wouldn't surprise me if they turned orange out there, and then we just started creating content again for those areas if we wanted to rank there as well. All right. Let me see here. I want to make sure I get everybody's question. My area is several small cities, complicated. No, typically you would choose one city to rank for as like the overarching for the website. The big city is the one that you want to rank for locally. And then you start creating smaller sub pages, or like we do with Naka's service area pages for each of those smaller cities. And then you would do that in order by how affluent they are. Do you want to get business there? Right? There's some areas that you might not want to get business, or maybe they're really industrial areas that you don't see any reason to rank for. And then you just prioritize them and start building content for those in that order. Jeff says, suppose you optimize for window treatments near me and are in St. Louis. Someone in New York types window treatments near me. Do we potentially show up? No, you wouldn't, because Google understands the words near me. And in most cases, you're doing that on your phone and Google knows where you're at. And even when you're doing a search like that on Google on a desktop, in most cases, you're probably logged in and they know your location. So you would probably never show up for something like that. Do we potentially show up, or does Google know that near me means near whatever city the searcher is in? Yes, they're assuming you're logged in. And in most cases, people are logged in to some sort of Google platform that Google knows where you're at. Same is also true for things like Siri, Alexa. Those types of services also know the physical location of that device, and when you do a search like that. What are the main factors to get into the 3-pack? So I do go into this training in much more detail in my, let me just show you guys where that's at real quick. wtmarketingpros.com/training. If you go here and look at which one is it? Local and on-page SEO is a really big one. And then managing your online reputation. This is the one where I go into a lot more in depth on the 3-pack, what's involved in getting ranked in there and what things you should do. The easiest way to answer the question, Jeff, is the amount of reviews that you have, the physical location, how close you are to the city or whatever they happen to be searching for. Those are the two biggest things. And then, is your website optimized? When somebody comes to your website, do they have a good experience? Is the bounce rate low? Is the content good? Those sorts of things. Those are the three biggest things that influence the three-pack or the three-pack of results. Obviously, you want name, address, phone number always to be the same. Put that in the footer of your website. Blogging, so constantly writing content. I just did some training on content, how to write more content, how to come up with ideas, things like that. So again, the idea is here, every time somebody comes to your website, it's growing bigger and better as time goes on. Another thing that's very important, this is just an example of our one of our clients, is calls to action. Make sure that they're obvious. There's obvious next steps when somebody comes to your website. In this case, a bright orange button that says schedule appointment, probably what they want me to do. But there are a lot of other things that you could do in here as well. Jody said, what is your recommendation for the frequency of blogging? Definitely check out the training on content. The thing with blogging is you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. You're busy running a business and you're going to get busier at times, right? There's a difference. There's an ebb and a flow of how busy you are. So what you really want to do is teach Google that you have a consistent blog approach. So if you think that you could write one piece of content a month, then do that, right? If you think you can do 2 a month, that's awesome. Do 2 a month. If you think you can do 4, that's fine. The problem with doing more is you don't want to do 4, you don't want to do a blog every week for 3 months and then stop, and go back to once a month or something like that, because Google's starting to learn how often content is going to be created, that kind of stuff. So it's better to start slow and ramp up, so right, once a month it is. Yeah. For our clients, depending on what level they're at, we may post 1 a week. And we just, we write content depending on whatever topic they need to rank for. But if you're trying to do this on your own, just don't bite off too much, I think, is the big thing. Now, one other thing that can happen, as time goes on, is you can rank in the 3-pack and rank in the first organic result. Now, in this case, they got a bonus result because they had their main page is about St. Louis and optimized specifically for St. Louis. And then they have a product page specifically around custom draperies. So when you do a search for St. Louis draperies, they have 3 potential opportunities for eyeballs here. And the other thing that's really cool about this second result in the organic is that means we pushed one of their competitors off of the page 1 of Google. So that's really nice. It doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, you're really starting to dominate these types of searches. So some things that you can do on other websites to influence your ranking: definitely claim and optimize your Google business listing, now called Google Business Profile. You can do that at google.com/business. If you haven't claimed your business, drop everything. As soon as I'm done today, go claim your business. But wait till I'm done, but very important, high priority. Get lots of citations. So mentions of your business around the web. And again, I go into this in that training, but the easy ones are a link from your Facebook profile, Yelp, Houzz, Better Business Bureau, Chamber of Commerce, all these different sites that list businesses. You should get those. And the more you get, the better off you are. We do have a citation building service specifically for this as well. Build online reviews and leverage best-in-class tools like Lead Boomerang. So Lead Boomerang is a tool that we've built specifically for window treatment and awning companies to request more reviews, get more reviews back, those sorts of things, with some really cool ways of doing that through texting the client, dropping a voicemail on their phone, a lot of different really cool things. But getting those reviews are huge. Build authoritative links back to your site from other websites. Sounds really easy, is not really easy, but will definitely improve your overall rankings. All right. So the secret to getting ranked at the top in the Google map, you definitely have to claim your listing. You have to get what we call citations, a lot of these mentions from these other websites back to yours. And then you need to get reviews. The more reviews, the more positive reviews you can get, the higher you're going to rank in that 3-pack of results. Here are some ideas for citations. I mentioned some of these. Facebook, obviously, any kind of vendors that you are working with, it perhaps could list you in their business directory. Associations like WCAA, the network, House, Yelp, your own, somebody else's blog. You can actually write content for somebody else, that kind of stuff. City Search, Levelor. So lots of places, lots of ways to get these citations from other sites. Amy says, what do you think about Podium for SEO? Other companies that work as well, but less expensive. Yeah, I mentioned Lead Boomerang. So Podium really is not an SEO tool. They are simply, from what I understand, they have that little chat widget, which is awesome. And they have a couple other just tools, but they're very expensive, $300-400 a month, I think. Lead Boomerang does all of that. We modeled that off of Podium as one of the things, but it does a lot of other things like CRM. It does the email marketing. So it does call tracking. So all of these different tools that a lot of businesses are paying for individually are all built into Lead Boomerang as one tool. They claim they will cause your site to rank higher. Okay. I don't know. Maybe they have an SEO type service. But at the end of the day, if you're not doing it ongoing from an SEO standpoint, if you don't keep your foot on the gas, you're not going to get far. So from time to time, we'll get somebody calling us, say, hey, we want to do a little bit of SEO, thinking that if they can just throw $1,000 at it, suddenly they're going to rank at the top, right? And they can just do that twice a year or something like that. Really not the case. Google is looking for this long approach where it becomes a hockey stick, right? All of a sudden there's some sort of tipping point where you just really start ranking really well. But that's just applied pressure for a period of time before that happens. Dan asks about how to shoot professional photos. So fantastic thing. Let's talk about that. So one thing you can do with Google Business Profile is upload photos. Obviously, you can also have a gallery on your site. But a couple things. A lot of businesses, a lot of window treatment companies will use these just awesome photos from Hunter Douglas and Graeber and some of these guys, right? They have these just awesome pictures. The problem with that is those same pictures are on a couple thousand websites. So Google is not yet smart enough to know what's in a picture, but they're getting better with this. But they can definitely tell that this is the same living room on these 100 or 1,000 websites, right? So you can obviously pay somebody to shoot professional pictures, but there's a school of thought now in like the agency world that I'm in, that pictures from iPhones and Androids taken at homes after install probably have more value, even though they're less professional. They have more value because when you take a picture with your iPhone or your Android, there's also location information embedded in that picture. It's also a one-of-a-kind picture. Nobody's ever taken that picture before. It won't show up anywhere else online. So think about that. Getting those pictures. This is hard if you are not the installer, or if your installers are not super technical, right? In a perfect world, you would want like a before and after taken from the same angle with the nice lighting and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you can just get pictures that are pretty good, from a client or something like that, or your installers, if they're willing, can really help you more than some of these gallery type pictures that all the vendors let you use. Jody says not just photos, videos too. Absolutely, especially on the motorization. If you can shoot a video of the awning opening up, right, or the shades going down, those sorts of things can really do some wonders for you. The other thing nice about video is it keeps people on your website a little bit longer. And we already know that is a ranking factor that Google's looking at. The longer somebody spends on your website, that's a little check mark in their box that they spent some more time there. They may have better quality information than a competitor because they didn't stay as long, right, on the site. So building links, again, not easy, but definitely worth your time to do so. Lots of places to get those links. And then, one thing that you see that these things have in common, or several things, obviously they claimed their listing. No spam in the company name. So you have to use your actual company name. You can't use Sunshine Drapery and Interior Design Window Treatments in St. Louis, Missouri, right? That's not the name of their company. So you got to be real careful not to put any extra spammy words in your business listing. Get lots of reviews. That's just an ongoing process you have to go through. Make sure that your keyword is in this title tag. This is where we're getting a little nerdy on the SEO side, but have your keyword in there. St. Louis window treatments is probably the biggest thing they want to rank for. Lots of citations. I mentioned that several times. And then a solid link profile. So just working on getting more links from other websites. Bit of a long-term project, but definitely can reap some great benefits. So when we talk about all this stuff, it's all great and it really can help your business grow, but you need to be able to track this, right? So that all the things that you've done have actually moved the needle in some way. There are a couple tools out there that do this. A lot of agencies such as ours offer these sorts of reports that in a lot of cases our clients will log in, look at, shrug their shoulders and say, okay, well, something's happening. I don't know what, but something's happening, right? Google Analytics is another one. Google Search Console that I mentioned earlier is at google.com/webmasters. Definitely go in there, claim your website in that system as well. And the difference between this and Google Analytics gives you data about the people that visited your website and what they did, how they moved around, what pages they looked at, how long they spent, those sorts of things. Google Search Console gives you your website versus everybody else and how they are working together in Google. So it could be like this one. Let's just take this example here. 665 million impressions. That means this website was in the top 10 on page 1 for 665 million different searches. That's a lot, right? But that doesn't mean every single person, every time your website came up in Google that somebody clicked on it, right? They probably only clicked on one or two, the first couple results, but that was still called an impression. But out of that, 26,000 people clicked. So you can start to see from Google's standpoint, how are people engaging with your website or not engaging with your website. Google.com/webmasters. Really, the first thing there is to claim it and then make sure that all of the health factors that Google shows you are green. That would be a great start to this. Obviously, tracking your keywords. Once you have a good list of keywords that you want to rank for, watch them and make sure that over time you're going up. Now, one thing I will say is don't look at your keywords every single day or every week, because you're going to go crazy, right? You're going to be ranking number 1, then you're going to move to 2 or 3, and then back to 2, and then down to 3 and up to 1. That can drive somebody nuts, right? But definitely be looking at the overall improvement of keywords over time. Definitely important. Dan says Google warns or repels prospective reviewers' reuse of their info. Not sure I understand what you mean. Prospective reviewers' reuse of their info. So maybe, explain a little bit more what you mean, and I'm happy to answer. Sorry. The other piece here is call tracking. It's very important that you're doing all this work to get people to your website or to your Google profile. it's very important that you track those people as well. So one thing, even with Google Analytics, right, you can see people that came to the site, how they clicked around, but at some point they're going to pick up the phone and call you. So it would be nice to know that that person called you because they visited your website. So we employ call tracking on websites. We employ call tracking on Google business profiles. Those are special phone numbers that just go on those platforms and they forward to your regular line. But that way, you know specifically that call came from that platform. We just had a client today ask us for a call tracking number for their newsletter. So they're sending out a newsletter and they want to track how many people actually call and engage with their business because they sent out that newsletter. So call tracking can be super cool, a great way to see how the different things that you're doing are creating or not creating results at the end of the day. Call tracking gives you a list of people that have called, who they were, where they called from, whether it was from the website or from Google My Business. In this case, remember I said most clients, this is how it looks. They're getting most of their calls from that 3-pack and not necessarily from their website. Very important. So, all right, let's wrap this up. New SEO formula, obviously create a great website with pages for each of your services, each of your products, and then build those city pages out. Get your keyword and geo modifiers into your title and into your description. Make sure every page on your site has unique content. Leverage multimedia. I think, who said that earlier? Jody, leverage multimedia. So if you're able to shoot video and things like that, definitely do that. That's pretty awesome. That will help people stay on your site longer. Get online reviews, build those citations. Again, check out that training from February on Google My Business and how to get citations and the importance of consistency in your name, address, phone number. Updated content. So not just changing your content. Oh, I spelled a word wrong. Not just changing your content, but adding content to the site as time goes on. Build links back to your site. And then do consider leveraging paid search for some of those high converting keywords. Just don't make it your main strategy. I think that's the big thing here. All right. So questions and answers. Let me get this back filled up here. Okay. I saw a couple more questions. Let's see. Dan says a pop-up sign appears when a reviewer attempts to recommend us on a Google review. So a pop-up sign appears when they're trying to recommend you on Google. Yeah, I still don't understand. I'm really sorry. I know that there's a couple things that Google does now where some people were building what's called a review gate, and you would get a email from a place that you went to for lunch or something like that, right? Hey, how did you like Joe's Burgers? Leave us a review, right? And it pops up and it shows 5 stars. If you check the 4-star or the 5-star, it dumps you to Google and asks you to leave a review there or something like that. If you click the 1, 2, or 3-star, it doesn't dump you to Google. It pops up a page that says, oh, sorry, you had a bad experience at our place. Please leave a review here and we'll get, we'll take care of it. That then goes to the business owner. It never goes to Google. So that's called a review gate. Google's really working on getting rid of those because that skews the results, right? Only the 4 and 5 stars are actually making it to Google in that case. So you have to be real careful about some sort of a pop-up that does something like that. So maybe that's what you're talking about. I'm really sorry. Let's see. Jeff says, any suggestion on how to show web visitors your Google business profile reviews? Link to review page. Is there a plugin you suggest to show them on your site? Yeah. In Lead Boomerang, we have that tool. Let me see if I have that on the NACA's website. We used to have it. Yeah. Reviews. So you can add reviews to it and then it pulls in those reviews. And in this case, our tool pulls in from Facebook and Google. So you can see the different reviews here. that have been posted. So this is something from Lead Boomerang. There are other services that do that. Grade.us is a review type system that does something very similar. And obviously you can also just type these into your website, right? You can copy and paste them into a review page on your site. Google is not going to give these any value because you control your own website and you could post whatever the heck you want about how great you are. So they're not going to give any value to any testimonials or anything that you've posted on your website. The best reviews you can get are posted on Facebook or Google My Business or Yelp or some of these super high trusted type sites. That's the best way to do it. There is nothing wrong with doing something like this. In fact, it probably increases the opportunity of you getting a lead. It's probably part of a customer's journey, right? Once they look at the Shades page, they're like, okay, yeah, let's check out their reviews. It's part of their decision process before they pick up the phone and call. But that definitely is something worth having on the site. And there's a lot of different services that'll scrape those and pull those in. Dan says, I'll try to send you an example later. This is a problem. Definitely send me something and I will do my absolute best to answer the best way I can. Is that chat box at the bottom right through Lead Boomerang? Yep. This is this review page is from Lead Boomerang. This is similar to Podium. But what's really cool about this is they fill this out and it dumps this lead into Lead Boomerang. It becomes a text message conversation with this client, and they can answer those questions immediately. The nice thing about something like this is if somebody wants to engage in your business in this particular way, it makes it easy to do so, right? You're not forcing them to pick up the phone. If it was up to my wife, she would never talk to another human, and she thinks the invention of the pizza ordering app is the best thing ever, right? Because she can just go on there, order it, it shows up at the door, never have to talk to people. I'm very outgoing, love talking to people, so I don't mind, but different personalities like to engage with businesses in different ways. So it's best to have several different ways that people can engage with you that makes the most sense. So to answer your question, yes, this is Lead Boomerang, dumps straight into the lead system, dumps them into a opportunities stage that you can start to work that lead. And by the way, Amy, if you want kind of a demo of Lead Boomerang, I'd be happy to do that. Just reach out to me. I'd be happy to show you one of those too. All right. Any other questions that you have that I want to make sure I answer everybody, except for Dan? I'm having a struggle with Dan, but I will be happy to answer once you send me that chat thing. I apologize that I'm not getting it. All right. I don't see any other questions. I do thank you guys for your time today. If you do want a copy of my book, Triple Your Window Treatment and Awning Leads, I'm happy to get you a copy absolutely free. I just got a new box of a couple hundred of them in, so they're ready to ship out today. WTMarketingPros.com/book will get you one of those in a week or so. If you didn't catch the keywords, make sure you go there, WTMarketingPros.com/keywords. You don't have to put your email in. You don't have to do anything. You can just download those straight from there. One other thing, if you want a free SEO report on your website, WTMarketingPros.com/report is pretty cool. It'll look up your business and then it'll give you something like this. Here's the things you're doing well. Here's the things you're not doing well. Give you a score. It'll compare you to some of your other competitors. Check that out. Absolutely free as well. WTMarketingPros.com/report. And lastly, if you want to chat with us about your window treatment or awning business, you're looking for some digital marketing help, obviously we'd love the opportunity to chat with you about it, talk about your goals, what you're trying to do this year, and just reach out to us. WTMarketingPros.com/strategy is a link to my calendar. You can jump on my calendar or just give us a call, 314-470-1180, and be happy to chat with you. So thank you guys for jumping on today. I do appreciate your time. I think I might have gone a little bit long. Yeah, I did 15 minutes over. Really sorry about going long. But thank you for sticking around. Hopefully you learned something and got some value from it as well. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.